The Broom-Sweeper's Bridge. In a world where a broom bristle is a staff and a puddle is an ocean, doing your best is how you raise your vibration and survive. Kip had never seen the backyard this quiet. Not quiet like peace, not quiet like sleep, quiet like something big had just happened and hadn't finished happening yet. All morning the sky had been bright, and the grass had stood straight like 1,000 green towers. Then the shadow came. The humans called it mowing day. Kip didn't know the word, but he knew the sound, the roaring, grinding thunder that rolled across the world and shaved whole forests down to stubble. Kip was a small brown beetle, no longer than a grain of rice. His home was under a flat stone near the fence line, in a little settlement of mixed scavengers, beetles, pill bugs, a few cautious spiders who pretended they weren't part of the group, and a pair of tired crickets who kept watch because they liked feeling important. When the mower passed, their stone shook like an earthquake and dust fell in slow avalanches. And when it was done, the shade was gone. The sun pushed down hard, baking the ground until it smelled like hot clay. The air shimmered close to the soil, turning every step into a heavy thing. "Roll call," barked Marn, the pill-bug elder, her shell dull but uncracked. "Count bodies, count water, count shade." Kip helped lift the edge of a torn leaf they used as a roof flap, peering out at the new landscape. Where tall grass had been, there were broken stalks like snapped masts. Where there had been a cool tunnel of green, there was open ground scattered with clippings as big as fallen logs. Across the clearing, a red ant patrol was already moving in a line, searching the fresh cut for anything stunned or slow. The ants had an organised colony under the shed, and they treated the yard like a map they owned. Kip's stomach tightened. He could hear the faint clicking of mandibles if he focused. Marn's voice softened, just a little, which in pill-bug language meant she was worried. "We can't stay here. No shade, no cover. We'll dry out, and the ants will pick us clean." A murmur moved through the settlement, like wind through dead leaves. Everyone looked at the stone, at the tunnels beneath it, at the familiar dirt. Kip looked too, and he felt something in himself pull backward, like a hook catching on a root. He didn't want to leave. He didn't want to do anything hard, but he also knew the truth the backyard always taught. The world didn't care what you wanted. It cared what you did. "We go to the bottle cap," said Jessa, one of the crickets, pointing a long antenna toward the far side of the yard. The bottle cap was an old plastic cap half buried near the garden bed, a curved shelter where rain pooled on the outside, but the inside stayed dry. "It's a full day's travel," someone whispered. "If you walk like you're already defeated," Marn said. "2 if you stop to complain." Kip flinched because it felt like she was looking straight at him. He hadn't said anything, but his thoughts had been loud. They packed quickly dry seeds, a coil of thread pulled from a human rag, a shard of aluminum foil that served as both mirror and signal. Kip was assigned to carry the broom bristle, a stiff black fibre they used like a pole for pushing, levering and anchoring lines. It was heavier than it looked. Kip wedged it across his back and felt his legs sink into the soil. As they moved out, the sun hammered the open ground. Clumps of grass clippings formed ridges, and every ridge was a climb. After an hour, Kip's legs shook. After 2, His mouth felt like dust. He started falling behind. "Keep up!" hissed Rill, a younger beetle with a shiny green back and the kind of energy that made Kip tired just watching him. "You've got the bristle. If you drop it, we lose tools." "I'm trying," Kip said, and his voice sounded small even to him. The words felt like excuses, and excuses always had a sour taste. They reached a puddle the humans would have called small, just a shallow dent in the dirt from last night's sprinkler run. To Kip's people, it was a lake with a mud shoreline that could suck you under if you stepped wrong. A fallen twig lay across it like a bridge. The group lined up to cross. Halfway over, the twig shifted. A ripple slit beneath it, and the whole bridge rolled. Kip froze, bristle digging into his back. Water lapped at the twig, darker and deeper than it looked. Behind him, someone squealed as their foot slipped and mud grabbed them. "Kip!" Marn snapped. "Anchor the line." They had a thread line tied around the lead cricket's waist for safety. But the knot was loose, and the twig kept rolling, turning every careful step into a gamble. Kip's mind flashed through possibilities. Drop the bristle, run, save himself. And then he felt how tight that thinking was. He let go of needing to know how this would end. His chest buzzed with the low vibration of panic, and he recognized it immediately, not as danger, but as a signal that his thinking had outrun the moment. Then he remembered something his father had said back when their world was smaller and kinder. Not a speech, not a lesson, just a plain statement while they worked. Do what you can, where you are, with what you have. Do it well. Kip sucked in air and made a choice that felt like stepping onto solid ground inside his own head. He shifted the bristle off his back, planted one end into the mud bank, and pushed the other end down onto the twig like a stabilizing pole. The twig stopped rolling. The threadline tightened. "Now," Kip said, surprising himself with the steadiness of his voice. "Cross one at a time and keep your weight low." The group moved, slower but safer. When the last pillbug crossed, Kip hauled the bristle free, mud clinging to it like tar. Rill stared at him. For once, he didn't look annoyed. He looked impressed, which was harder to get from Rill than water from stone. "You did good," Rill said, like the words were foreign. Kip felt something lift in his chest. Satisfaction. Not loud, but real. A small, high vibration, like catching a warm breeze. They didn't stop long because the ants were behind them now. Kip could see the red bodies moving across the open cut like living embers, following scent trails, scanning for stragglers. As afternoon stretched, wind began to rise. To humans, it would have been a light breeze. To Kip, it was weather world-shaping force that bent stalks and flung grit like arrows. They reached a patch of clover that hadn't been cut, a rare island of shade. Everyone collapsed under it, panting. Marn tapped Kip's bristle with one claw. Good anchoring back there. Kip didn't know how to respond to praise. He almost shrugged it off, almost returned to old habits of self-doubt. But he caught himself. He tried something new. "Thank you," he said simply. And he meant it. That night they camped under a bottle label stuck to the dirt like a thin roof. The label smelled faintly sweet, and the ink made shadows on their faces. Kip couldn't sleep. The ground was too open, the air too dry, the ant patrol too close. He listened to the others breathing and felt the buzzing worry start again. The low vibration of what if this doesn't work? What if we're too late? And then he noticed a gentler thought forming, one he chose to stay with. I don't need all the answers tonight. I just need enough calm to rest. He looked at the bristle beside him. It was smeared with mud, bent slightly where it had taken strain. He thought about how easy it would be to leave it dirty, to deal with it later. But later had a way of becoming never, and never had a way of becoming regret. So Kip cleaned it. He used a scrap of leaf and a little grit, scraping carefully until the bristle was straight and smooth again. He didn't do it because anyone told him to. He did it because it felt like respect for the tool, for the group, for himself. By the time he finished, his mind felt quieter, and Kip understood the quiet wasn't rest, it was alignment. Nothing was fixed, but the urgency had softened, and that was enough for now. His mind wasn't empty, just steadier. Morning came with heavy clouds, and with them the smell of rain. Everyone looked up, tense. Rain was life and death in one event. It filled puddles and nourished plants, but it also flooded tunnels, crushed bodies, and turned soil into glue. We need the bottle cap before it hits, Jessa said, voice tight. If we're caught in open ground, she didn't finish, because everyone already knew. They moved fast, but the wind fought them, and the first drops came like thrown stones. A fat drop hit the dirt beside Kip and exploded into a spray of mud that plastered his legs. Another drop struck Rill's shoulder and knocked him sideways. He scrambled, slipping, panic flashing in his eyes. The ants weren't chasing now. Even ants respected rain. But something else moved in the wet, an earthworm's slick body shifting under the soil, pushing up ridges like a slow tidal wave. And above them, a robin landed on the fence rail, tilting its head as if deciding what kind of snack today would offer. Under the branch, Marn ordered, pointing to a fallen stick ahead that formed a low arch over a shallow trench. It wasn't much, but it was something. They dashed, drops hammering all around, the world turning loud with splashes and wind. Kip reached the branch and saw the problem immediately. Water was streaming into the trench. The branch arched over it, but the runoff would fill it fast. If they crowded under there, the rising water would trap them. We need to redirect it, Kip said, words coming out before fear could stop them. Rill gaped. With what? Kip looked around, human debris scattered everywhere if you trained your eyes to see it. A strip of plastic wrapper caught on a thorn, a broken drinking straw half buried like a tunnel, a piece of foil, crumpled but reflective. Kip felt the old wobble of doubt. Who am I to solve this? Then he remembered the feeling from the puddle bridge. That steady satisfaction, that simple truth. Doing your best changes what you can reach next. Help me, Kip said to Rill, and didn't soften it with apology. Pull the wrapper. We'll make a gutter. They worked in the rain, dragging the plastic strip under the branch, angling it like a slide so the water would run away from the trench instead of into it. Kip used the broom bristle as a lever, wedging one end into the soil, pushing the plastic into place. Marn and the others held it down with pebbles and seed husks. Jessa tied the thread line around a thorn and looped it over the wrapper edge to keep it from flipping. The first stream of runoff hit the plastic and skated away, spilling harmlessly beside the trench. Not perfect, but enough. "Get under!" Kip called. They huddled beneath the branch as the rain intensified, the world outside becoming a curtain of falling weight. The trench water rose, but slowly now. The wrapper gutter held. The robin leaned forward on the fence rail, watching the commotion with interest. Kip held still, so did everyone else. Minutes stretched. A century in insect time. Then the robin fluffed its feathers, turned, and flew away, bored or distracted by something bigger. Rill let out a breath like he'd been holding it since birth. You saved us," he said. Kip shook his head, mud dripping from his antennae. "We saved us." For the first time, Kip wasn't waiting to see if things would work out. He trusted that responding from steadiness was enough, is less than #06#. When the rain eased, they emerged into a transformed world. Tiny rivers ran between clumps of soil. New puddles formed, glossy and dangerous. The air smelled alive. They reached the bottle cap by late afternoon, exhausted and soaked. It rose from the dirt like a stadium wall, its rim a protective curve. Inside, it was dry, warm even, a shelter that felt like a promise. The group spilled in and collapsed, some laughing in relief, some crying because their bodies didn't know another way to release stress. Marn rolled onto her back, legs in the air, a pill-bug version of surrender. Kip sat near the rim and looked out at the yard, now glittering with rain and sun. The dangers were still there. The ants would return. The mower would come again someday. The weather would keep being weather. But Kip felt different. Not because the world had changed, but because something in him, he realized the strange power of doing your best wasn't about earning approval or proving worth. It was about the vibration you carried while you were in the middle of what was. When he cut corners, he felt low, annoyed, guilty, small. When he did the task fully, with care, he felt higher, satisfied, steady, useful. That feeling guided his choices like an inner sense. And those choices, small, repeated, turned into survival. Marn crawled over and settled beside him, her shell clicking softly against the plastic floor. "You found the high road today," she said. Kip watched a droplet slide down a blade of grass outside, huge as a boulder rolling down a mountain. He didn't flinch. "I didn't find a road," he said. "I just did the next thing the best I could." Marn made a sound that might have been a laugh. That's usually what the high road looks like. Kip leaned back against the bottle cap wall, feeling the solid curve at his shoulders. The settlement began planning where to place sleeping nests, how to store dry seeds, how to mark safe paths through the wet grass. Rill approached, quieter than usual, and placed a small seed beside Kip like an offering. "Thanks," he said, eyes down. Kip nodded, accepting it without suspicion. "Do your best," Kip told him, not as a command, but as a gift. Rill glanced up, and for the first time, Kip saw it relief, like permission to stop fighting himself. "I will," Rill said. Outside, the sun broke fully through the clouds, turning the rain-washed yard into a bright wilderness again. And inside the bottle cap, Kip felt a simple, Steady certainty settle in his chest. Whatever the backyard became next, he could meet it by doing what he could, where he was, with what he had, and doing it well.